let's go back to the phones and see if we can check in with our friend Stephanie. Stephanie, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Chrissy. That you're the emptying the pews work that you've done over time is invaluable.
Thank you.
And it's got nothing to do with trans issues per se, but
just very quickly, we had Chrissy on the show right after the Emptying the Pews was released, but can you tell the audience very quickly what that project is?
Sure. It's an essay anthology co-edited by myself and my friend Lauren O'Neill that simply gives a diverse group of authors who've left conservative Christianity the space to tell their own compelling personal stories. Whatever they want to say about, leaving Christianity and what played into that. There are a lot of queer narratives in the book. But yeah, my essay was about the time before I was even conscious of being trans, because that was a belated thing for me because of my fundamentalist upbringing to even be able to recognize that. So I didn't, right? I mean, it's not like my whole life is caught up in being transgender. I wrote about my missionary experience in Russia.
So there's that, but where we're at right now in the current political context is we need help. Right? We need where we're at is there's a mobilization of the people that are still in the pews that are trying to frame gay and trans people as being somewhat of the devil. And I actually know a number of really quite devout gay and trans people who still have an affinity toward religion. And this is it's very, very hurtful to me. It's very hurtful that there are so many people who are willing to sit by and say, we have your back because you're one of the good ones. You're okay. But they won't do anything when laws are being passed that basically take away their humanity. I mean, it's pretty fucking scary. I mean, I don't mind being visible, but in a lot of respects, I wish I was invisible. Mm-hmm. I would like to have a trans day of invisibility when my being who I am is simply accepted as being another human being, right?
Mm-hmm. I can absolutely understand that, Stephanie.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful for me to be featured on the website of my national governing body in sport to say, oh yeah, we're so accepting of trans people. But I would much prefer that didn't need to fucking happen.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a tension there.
I'd rather
there's a tension there for sure.
I'd rather be known as a good person and as a good competitor and as a pretty good sailor than as a qualified trans. Well, she's okay, but she's trans after all.
I for a short time in grad school, I had
bullshit that goes along with this is ridiculous. Anyway, that's my point. Yeah. Thank you.
I had a gay roommate who was like studying aerospace engineering, And he always refused to make being gay sort of the centerpiece of his identity. He would always say, "I'm a nerd first." But he was
I'm a gay nerd is just a qualifier.
He was very gay, and I mean, and obviously, sometimes he would play that up because he really liked being a bad Catholic. So he really reveled in being a terrible Catholic in his view. So yeah, but yeah, I think that we're often viewed as only our gender because of the way things are right now, and we should be allowed to be whole people. So we need all kinds of representation. Obviously, we have to talk about trans issues as trans issues, and obviously, a lot of trans people are not passing. Others may be passing. That is, perceived as cisgender. Just if other people look at them, they're not going to notice anything. But it'd be nice if we could all just be seen as, our whole selves, with gender just being one part of that.
Yeah, well, that's another whole conversation, is passing versus not passing, and that goes into our own internal conversation as to, is this acceptable? Where does my dysphoria start and where does it end? And where do you accept it and where do you let go of it and all of that other stuff? But those are really personal issues. The difficulty that I see in current discourse, public discourse, is other people are making those decisions for us. Not that they haven't in the past, but we're, the shit is getting loaded upon us. Back 24 years ago when I transitioned, this was not an issue in law, right? Mm-hmm. The fucking the Massachusetts state legislature wasn't making a law saying you cannot do this. You cannot be who you are. This is a difference in kind. The legislation that we fought against in the 50s and 60s was trying to overturn discriminatory laws forbidding people to be, to interact in the public sphere. Like, if you're white, you're going here. If you're black, you're going there. And this water fountain, that water fountain, this bathroom, that bathroom.
And don't forget that cross-dressing was also illegal.
Of course it was. But the point is discriminatory laws were overturned over the course of time. What we're facing now is discriminatory laws that are being passed. I mean, people are affirmatively passing legislation that is discriminatory. And we're not overturning things that it's like, well, that's ridiculous. Why should we have laws about where black people and white people can go to the bathroom or drink out of a soda fountain?
All of these laws that were eventually superseded by the Civil Rights Act were at one point passed. And so I think it raises an interesting question about what the future might look like in terms of a constitutional amendment or some landmark legislation that would ensure equal rights for people regardless of their gender identity or their sexual identity and these kinds of things. We're certainly a long ways away from that. And so I don't know what that future is going to look like, but it definitely is a scary picture that Chrissy has been painting tonight. So I appreciate you being concerned about these things.
On the other hand, I appreciated President Biden calling for the passage of the Equality Act today, but it's not passing anytime soon.
Yeah, fair to say.
What we're seeing is state after state after state asserting their authority to essentially pass laws like anti-miscegenation laws. So keep your eyes open, because that's what's going on. And
no question, there is still so much going wrong. There is still so much to keep a lookout on. So we've got one more call I want to make sure to hit before we wrap up tonight, Stephanie. We're getting terribly close to the deadline, but I do appreciate you continuing to raise the alarm and to highlight just how scary some of these changes can be.
Thanks for calling in, Stephanie, and thanks for your support.